Hi, this is Roby Thomas, Bay Area Downsizer. Of late, I've been getting questions about if the market is shifting and how to put the house on the market if the seller is ready to put on the market, and why is it taking so long for the house to sell. So let's address that and with a few pointers as how to sell your house faster, even in a shifting marketplace. So let's get into it. So the one of the main reasons why houses are struggling to sell in today's market is price. Because if the price is too high, the buyers are not attracted to the ones which are higher price, but they go to the ones which are lower price, even if it's in a bad condition. So that's one of the first reasons. The second reason is the interest rates. Interest rates have actually almost doubled from the low point of 4 years ago, from 2.8 30-year fixed to right now averages around 6.5% 30-year fixed. The number three is there's job layoffs right now in the tech sector and in the Fremont or the Bay Area. Most of the jobs are tech sector related jobs, and these are highly paid tech employees who have the disposable money to buy a house and roll it into real estate. Even if they have a primary, if they're buying an investment property, they buy a secondary investment home, and they usually buy it at the convenience of their liquidity. So given these three major factors, you also have to factor in the geopolitical situation right now, which is the war in Ukraine, the recent war that happened between Israel and Iran and continuing to brew. We do not know which direction it's going to go into. And three is the India and Pakistan war that happened a few weeks ago. These are a lot of uncertain things that the market takes time to digest, and that is also one more reason why that is happening. The fourth reason is the tariffs that is being, let's say, discussed, or they're trying to figure out what is going to happen. But if there is no clarity in which direction it's going to go, then the marketplace is confused. In this particular case, when I'm addressing sellers, I always say think about what the buyers are doing, because the the buyer pool has shifted. It's not that the properties are not selling, but the number of properties that are selling have diminished greatly, only because the buyers are much more reluctant to make an offer on the house, not because they do not qualify. They do have money, they're waiting in the sidelines. They're also looking for opportunities. There's also something called buyer fatigue, where they've been writing offers for the last 3 4 years and being priced out every single time. So they're playing catch up. They save money, they keep their RSUs or their stock options, their savings in the bank. They take money as a loan out of their 401k and still not able to get into a house, even if they're making an offer which is non-contingent and way over asking. I know clients of mine and others who have written 300,000, 400,000 over asking and still priced out of certain neighborhoods and houses. So those buyers, even recently, last week when I called them, their response is, well, we've been priced out. Now we're going to wait in the sidelines until the price is correct or crash. So their mind is tuning towards there may be a real estate crash, but this, especially because we are in the higher priced homes in comparison to the rest of the country, you also have to take into consideration what kind of loans the previous buyers have bought, and that is, most of the people have put in 30 40% as down payment, and they're not in a rush to sell even if the price is correcting, only because they're not in a rush to sell at any point. They have the leverage to rent out their existing house, buy another house, and wait until they feel that they can sell it for a premium. That is also adding to the confusion. Now, apart from that, you do have to take into consideration that a lot of sellers, I won't say a majority, but there are the number of sellers who are thinking of for sale by owners have increased, only because They do not want to pay a real estate agent. They do not see value in paying a real estate agent. Now, here's my question to those for sale by owners. There's nothing wrong in trying to sell your own house and saving some money. In fact, I give you credit. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you because you ventured out into the world of sales, which is a totally different thing. And it is good, and I commend that. But here's the problem. If seasoned realtors find hard to find a real ready, willing, and able buyer who's motivated to make an offer on a home, how are you as a seller, being the for sale by owner, taking on the work of marketing, taking on the work of showing the property at different time frames, screening the potential buyers or non-buyers? What about safety issues? What about control on who goes in and who goes out of the house? What about how are you going to screen their interest rates if they don't have all cash? If they do have all cash, how are you going to verify? There's so many complex things to it that it is definitely a bad idea to go for sale by owner. You can always find an agent who you can negotiate. All commissions are negotiable, all terms are negotiable. So nothing is fixed in stone, and you can find seasoned realtors who will work with you to find you a premium buyer at your time frame. Given that, also let's consider what is going on with the pricing. Well, since 2011, 2008 decline, the market crashing because of the subprime mortgage crisis, and then the market stabilizing, bottoming out, and continuing to climb since 2011, has only seen the growth of real estate prices in one direction, and that is uphill, except for the short dip in prices during the just before the pandemic, or when the pandemic was just in the limelight at that point. And then it continued to pick up again because of the Fed's printing of money and the interest rates and the like. And with the work from home situation, buyers who were concentrated in very close to the tech sector cities were allowed to go further and further out to buy homes away from their workplace. Now that the entire thing has changed, and most of the tech companies are requiring their employees to come back to the office a minimum of 3 days a week, 3 days a week, and they're driving about 1.5 to 2 hours one way. That's a lot of time and cost of opportunity that is being wasted on the road. So buyers now are in a conundrum, because the buyers who are going to buy in the Silicon Valley or in Fremont area or the San Ramon Dublin area, they want to be close to the tech sector, but they also have to sell their current homes in this market condition where the market is slower, much slower. So what houses where the houses used to sell within a day, two, or a weekend, now is taking 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, some 90 days or more before it sells. Are they selling? They are selling if it is priced right, if there is a strategic approach to the marketing side of it, with the showability. Sometimes you put a house on the market and you cannot show the house because it's owner occupied and because of inconvenience to the children in the house, or parents who are ailing from some illness. So there's many factors like that too. And most of the primary home buyers are actually priced out, especially because the interest rate is at 6.5 to 7%, as I had mentioned earlier. So they have the money, they do have 25, 30% as down payment, but they also want a house. They're much more pickier now because they want a house which is totally redone, beautiful to move in. They don't want to deal with any contractors. They do not want to fix the roof. They do not want to fix section 1 on the termite report. They do not want to change a garage door which is not functioning. They do not want to do the concrete driveway which is cracking up, because especially if it is in the older neighborhoods, these are very common problems. So the price of the house may be 2 million or more, but the price of the house is what the buyer is willing to pay. The seller is only setting a sticker price. So basically, they are overpriced. But if you are a smart home seller or a savvy home seller, you would work with a dynamic agent who's actively seeking what works in the marketplace, what it would take to bring premium buyers into the house, Open houses by itself do not work anymore, only because most of the information is available from their online sources, and they do the research 3 times before they get out of their car and go into a house. And this is with all the clients which I have right now. So even when I suggest, hey, why don't you take a look at one of the open houses and tell me, they tell there's no point in going to open house because the information that they get is much more accurate right now through the big data aggregators like Zillow and Redfin, Movato. I mean, there's like 15, 20 websites that buyers, potential buyers, go to before they make their decision. The next thing you have to consider is the emotional toll that the seller goes through. You, the seller, potential seller, is going through, especially if they're been in the house for, if you've been in the house for like 20, 30, 40 years. There's a lot of clutter in the house that needs to be decluttered. There's boxing to need to be done. There, all the material needs to be disposed that you're not using. That itself would take weeks especially even with help. And if you do not have physical help to help you out with that, it could take months. So let's say you put the house on the market, but the house is completely cluttered. Buyers are completely uh, they're not motivated enough to make an offer on the house, or even if they make a offer, it is so way below asking price that the seller will not accept it, won't even bother countering the offer. So when that happens, the house continues to sit on the market. So one of the things that I always advise or suggest to potential sellers is, do not put your house on the market if there is clutter inside the house. Have it completely decluttered. Have it pressure washed. The windows all pressure washed from the outside. The house pressure washed. The awning pressure washed. The roof preferably pressure washed. Everything pressure washed just to remove any form of dust and particles, to increase your appeal from the buyer's end. That is one of the reasons, apart from pricing. Pricing also, if you're underpriced, too underpriced, the buyers don't go for it because they think something is wrong with the property. If it's overpriced, all you're doing as a potential seller is, or a seller is, that you're helping lower priced homes sell faster. So that happens all the time. Right now, it's all about will and motivation. Buyers want to regain the respect of the seller. What is happening in the last 14, 15 years is every single buyer has been priced out, and there's something called buyer fatigue. Buyers are tired of writing offers and being priced out, because no matter how much they save on the RSUs or the stock options or their bonuses, they're not able to get into a house that they really want. So they sit in the sidelines. So there's a pool of buyers that are sitting in the sidelines. Then there's a pool of buyers who have got notices of layoffs, which is also happening right now. Then there's a pool of buyers who are who don't want to pay a high mortgage. So there's three categories right there who don't want to make an offer, even though they have the money to make an offer. They're not just ready or willing, but have the money to do it. So to avoid that, the suggestion that I would suggest to potential sellers is, always keep in mind that real estate is not about the median sales price. Median sales price is only a suggestion without factoring the upgrades, without factoring the proximity to a freeway, the location of the house, the sometimes the elevation of the house. There are many factors that play here. So keep in mind that real estate is always based on the minor sales price, or the house that's sold in its margin. So it only takes one house in your neighborhood to sell below asking for the entire neighborhood's price to be now priced lower, even though the comparables which a realtor or an appraiser is going to use is going to show 6 months delayed data, which shows a very high number. And so there's an expectation that the seller has, which is a higher number, but the buyer pays a lower uh, price range, and that itself is an emotional tug of war in the seller. That also takes longer for the house to sell. It's one of the reasons, meaning. So, number one suggestion is identify that your house must be priced slightly below the lowest priced home in the area. Yes, this is unfortunate. This is um, hard to digest. This is a bitter pill to swallow, so to speak, but it has to be priced 2 to 3% lower than the lowest priced home if your home has to get an offer and be in escrow fast, because there's always a buyer who wants to buy low, and the buyer also will be willing to remove all contingencies because they see that the seller has acknowledged the view of the buyer. It's a psychological game that is played in sales, in any form of sales. It so happens in real estate is one of the highest priced asset classes that uh, big emotions are involved. So improve your home's presentation. So one of the things was declutter, you clean, and then if it is vacant, have it staged. Sometimes I do not stage. I suggest do not stage it because if the square footage of the house is too small, staging only makes it look more congested, and people like space. The more space you show, the more windows, the more light, the more it emotes. So have that. And the one thing that you have to keep in mind if you're going with a realtor or real estate agent or a realtor is that try to figure if they're a proactive agent or a reactive agent. And that you can figure out by various questions. One of them being, what do you do to help sell my home? It's a very simple question, but it's a loaded question because most realtors will tell you they do comparables, they do MLS, they do broker tours, they do open houses. All these things that I just mentioned are standard practices that most agents nationwide deploy because that's what the industry teaches. But there's very few people who use active, proactive way of doing things, which are custom advertisements for a custom home because no two homes are alike, even if they're in the same square footage, even if built by the same builder, even if it's on the same side of the street, no two homes will be priced equally because it's all about the location, it's about how much the buyer is willing to pay. So, for those reasons, seek out a proactive agent who's willing to tell you the truth in advance and be ready to willing to do the work way before you put the house on the market. Now, the other thing is there a better time to put your house on the market? There isn't, because you can have a beautiful market in terms of interest rate at lower interest rates. But if there's no real buyer, then there's no way to sell it anyways. So what I suggest is instead of chasing the market, why don't you work with an agent who will create the market for you? Creating the market is reinventing, repackaging, and remarketing by showing it in a different light uh, and bringing new buyers into the system. New buyers, new fresh of eyes are also looking at new pricing and coming with new emotions, desires, hopes, and ambitions to make that house their home. That is one of the things. So waiting can be risky, and you can always forward price the momentum that is already built in when the buyers are ready to move into the house. So I hope this helps you. This is Robbie Thomas, your Bay Area downsizer. If you would need a free, no obligation, custom marketing plan for your house, if you're thinking of selling, do reach me at 510-374-2264. I also have buyers in waiting who have been tired of writing offers but looking for the right home. And if they like your house and if you're thinking of selling, let's have a conversation and we'll take it one step at a time. Thank you. My number is 510-374-2264. Have a wonderful day.